and the form is then submitted to the assessor's board, and they vote on whether to approve or deny the form. And if it is approved, if we found that our data was incorrect and the home is overvalued, then that is then entered into this software that is also handled by the tax collector's department. And then the tax collector's department actually handles the processing and issuing of the refund check.
So the check comes directly from Barre, it wouldn't come from the state?
Correct.
And how long does that process normally take?
Usually it takes anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks. By law, the assessor's department has about 90 days to react to any abatement application. And once that's done, once the decision has been made, the applicant must be notified within 30 days. And then I'm not exactly sure what the window is for the issuance of the actual refund check itself, but that's the window for the paperwork.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Has it ever worked the other way where someone requested an abatement and then they end up paying more taxes?
Unfortunately, yes. It's something that we do advise people of whenever they do apply for an abatement. And it's because by law, we have to have our data be as accurate as possible.
Mhm.
So if I go to inspect a home and there's a 4-story addition with a couple extra bedrooms that isn't on the plan that they didn't file a permit for, then obviously I'm going to record that, and that's going to drive the value up.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's a hyperbolic
Yeah.
example. But
Yeah,
yeah.
but it does occur, I'm sure,
Yes.
yeah.
It's rare, but it does occur.
Great. Anything else? Well, I appreciate all the information, and, again, congratulations on the new job, and wish you luck.
If you wanted a specific or a more accurate figure for new growth or any other information, is there a way that I can?
Yeah, if you want to, send it, I'll give my email to Jessica, or you just
Okay.
email Jessica, and she can connect us.
Yeah, absolutely. Just let me know any questions you have or anything.
All right. Cool, great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And Jesse's gonna be a part of our finance team meetings also.
Oh, so
So he'll,
Thursday?
yeah,
Yeah,
so
okay.
those conversations will start to mix back in.
Great, excellent. Have a good night.
Thank you.
You do, thanks.
All right. Moving right along here. Police chief, and congratulations
Thank you.
Yeah.
on your appointment, or however you want to call it.
Yep. Officially appointed yesterday.
Officially appointed.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Thank you.
And we have your budget.
So I'm not looming over you?
Yeah. Library has a police chief. Yeah, I found it, thank you. All these papers, I've never had so much paper.
Jessica should have put them all in order. Oh,
No, she
thank
did.
you.
No, I took everything and I tried to organize it to how my brain works, and this is how my brain works right here, so. All right. So you were just here not too long ago.
Yep, yeah, so, as you can see, there is an increase in my request for the budget for this coming fiscal year, which basically all reflects upon my 10th full-time officer, which was approved by the select board and who actually starts next week on April 1st. The funding for that position from April 1st to June 30th was covered thankfully by the Finance Committee, and then also by the Stetson School, who provided us with a grant.
Oh, great.
So you can see these line items that do incur a slight increase. Again, police department salaries, it reflects that 10th officer. The longevity stipend, that goes up actually 100%. That is because my second in command gets his 10-year longevity stipend this year, and then the admin assistant goes up to a $300 stipend this year. So that's where that increase comes from. Specialty stipends, that is because we're going to have 2 more Field training officers per the collective bargaining agreement get a stipend for training
Okay.
new officers. Educational stipends go down slightly because the former chief had a master's degree, which I do not have, so that's gonna, that reduces our educational stipend burden slightly. Then we have contractual allowances, that's uniform allowances, so that, again, that new officer, per the collective bargaining agreement, is entitled to a uniform allowance, so that's one officer's uniform allowance, that's what brings it up that 10, almost 11%, for a grand total of 8.82% increase. I will not be, there aren't any warrant articles this year. I don't need a police cruiser this year. Thankfully, or maybe unfortunately, we had a police cruiser that was totaled, so that was covered by insurance, and it happened to be the oldest cruiser in the fleet that needed replacement. So,
Yeah.
You know, it just, that's,
I'm surprised insurance covers the full cost. I mean, that doesn't, not in the private
Full
private
cost.
world. Yeah, it's pretty
I
Yeah.
good.
wouldn't do that on a personal car.
No, no.
it was,
You'd be getting a loan.
Anyway,
yeah, no.
Yeah, it's
So anyways, that was able, we were able to save some money there. I mean, obviously, I will have to put in for a police cruiser next year.
Mhm.
Some expenses that may be on the horizon that aren't reflected in this budget. Obviously, with police reform, body cameras may become mandatory in the
Mhm.
state. There's a lot of talk about that. There are grants available through the state, which I have explored. I'm in the process of evaluating different body cameras, getting quotes from vendors, and also pursuing grants made available through the state. However, state grants for body cameras only cover the hardware costs, which is substantial. I mean, we're talking $20,000+ for body cameras and cruiser cameras. However, there's also a storage fee per unit to store unlimited storage in the cloud, secure storage, obviously, and that could be $10,000 a year for body cameras and cruiser cameras, which is something that we're gonna have to find funding for, but that's down the road. So, I didn't increase, like, my armory line item. Ammunition has gone up almost 3 to 4 times what it was a couple of years ago, but I didn't increase that. I think we have a pretty good supply as it is. We kind of planned ahead on that one, so don't have to go up on that. Cruiser maintenance, I mean, that's an issue that is going to increase, because unfortunately our town mechanic has suffered some health issues, so now we have to go to the private sector to have our cruiser serviced, where it would be a lot more cost effective to go with our town mechanic. So again, you know, I just level funded that line. We'll figure a way to take care of that. We do charge an admin fee or a cruiser fee to our private details, so that is going to go into the cruiser maintenance line to help us offset some of those costs.
and part-timers are out of the picture now, or how?
So there are
when's
no
that
more, there's no more part-time academy, period. That's done and over with. But what part-timers we do have, if they want to continue working, they need to go through a bridge academy, which is another expense. And that's spread out over 3 years. I think I kind of touched on it a little bit last time.
Yeah.
Depending on your last name is when you need to be certified. This year, everybody with the last name beginning A through H needs to be certified by June 30th, or the state says you're no longer a police officer. There's no wiggle room, just done. By the time it's all said and done, when we're through this 3-year process, I anticipate we may have 2 or 3 part-timers, and that's gonna be it. We have a couple of part-timers that have full-time jobs on the outside, but who still enjoy doing police work on the side. You know, I think they'll stay, but after that, we don't even have the capability to hire part-time officers, because there's just no such thing anymore.
Wow.
So they'll be kind of grandfathered in even after that 3 years?
Well, so
If-
once they complete the bridge academy, is what they're calling it, they'll actually be qualified for full-time work.
Okay,
Which is why a lot of smaller departments that rely even more heavily on part-timers than we do are really in a bind, because any of their part-time officers that want to become full-time police officers, whereas the full-time academy may have been too much of a time commitment for them or too much of a financial commitment for them. Now they can go through the Bridge Academy, which is basically like a part-time, full-time academy. And at the end of it, they're fully certified to work full-time. So they're gonna be going to other full-time jobs, full-time police jobs within the Commonwealth,
Right.
which is really gonna reduce the,
Be tough for small towns.
Well, there's a need, right? A lot of towns are not staffed, right, with enough full-time folks.
oh no, 100%, yeah, this is, we're in some very challenging times. I mean, and it's not just, I know that it's across the board, manpower-wise, no matter what sector you're in. But just as an example, 6 years ago, 36,000 people signed up to take the state police exam and the civil service exam. This past year, 6,000 signed up. So,
Yeah, interesting.
Not a lot of folks.
and then just to reiterate on the 10th full-time officer, I mean, this isn't even an additional officer that I'm putting on. This is just bringing us back to our staffing levels as of 2009.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And to replace the deputy police chief, is that gonna be a different structure but same pay type of thing?
well, again, so, yeah, this budget does not reflect chief's pay or the second in command. The second in command probably will not be, won't have the title as deputy chief,
Mhm.
maybe lieutenant or something else, but there will be a second in command. And obviously, those two salaries I can't figure in because contracts haven't been worked out yet.
Understood. Yeah, all right.
And the same with the administrative assistant, I can't factor in any COLA or anything like that, that depends on what the town
Mhm.
decides.
Oh, exactly. Because I know, on your current budget, we're over, right, on overtime?
Yeah,
Can you talk a little bit about that?
yeah, sure, I mean, that's just, whenever we lose somebody, we just lost our former chief, and we're still paying our former chief's salary up until June 30th,
Mhm.
so that kind of puts a hurting on us, and we've had people leave. Right now, I've got one out on paternity leave, I've got one, my detective is in narcotics school for almost a month, so, that,
How do you cover that? You gotta cover that with overtime, because you can't do part-timers.
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not good.
I mean, the part-time too
I guess
is
that goes
over,
right.
yeah. Yeah, they're both over, Supplies too is over a little bit as well.
Yeah, so supplies, I don't think I increased that line. We're working on, you know what kills us with supplies, and I laugh about it, but it's not that funny, is office supplies, like the price of toner, the
Mhm.
amount of reports and paper that we generate, we go through toner like it's water,
Yeah.
and it's expensive.
Mhm.
And we've tried going to less expensive, I forget the company, but there is a less expensive generic alternative,
Mhm.
and it works like crap and lasts half as long. So you kind of have to,
You're
Go
stuck
with the-
paying all the money.
go with and that's, the office supplies are really what kills us on the supplies. But also, every time we get a new officer, we have to outfit them with gear,
Mhm.
and that's a huge expense. I mean, that's $3,000 an officer.
Okay.
And we've had a lot of turnover lately.
So you're probably gonna come in a little bit over budget overall, you think, for 21? 22 rather?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. You think this is pretty good? I know one thing that we mentioned with the other Chief Carboni is maybe at some point, instead of doing a cruiser as an article, since it's an every year expense, try to roll it into the budget, right? Maybe a conversation for next season to see.
Yeah,
if
so I didn't want
whether-
to
yeah.
go ahead and throw that in there.
Yeah.
That is a goal of mine. I actually went to a police-specific budget class 2 weeks ago, and then they made that suggestion and said, listen, it's a recurring cost
Mhm.
every year. Try to put it in your operating budget rather than trying to go to town meeting.
Yeah. Although at camera expenses, who knows, right? It's, is that, you waiting on the state for that, to see what they're?
So, waiting on the state and also to see if the state mandates it, then we also have to wait and see if it's gonna be an unfunded mandate, or if it's gonna be. or if
Eventually
it's
it will be,
gonna
it will be eventually.
I mean,
Maybe the
that only
first
makes
year
sense,
won't
right?
So, I'm hoping that with the grants that are available right now, like I said, hardware, which is a huge expense, should be covered under grants.
Mhm.
It's just gonna be a matter of, I mean, I think that we can swing $10,000 a year for storage, for data storage. But that's just something that we're gonna have to.
Do you, I mean, I know you're just kind of getting thrown into this here. Do you have any grants that you're like looking to apply for, or?
So there is a state grant that it hasn't been opened for application yet, but it is, the money has been allocated for body camera acquisition
Okay.
for hardware. Yeah.
Oh,
So
nice.
as soon as that opens up, we're gonna be applying for that.
Great.
And like I said, right now I have two quotes that are, well, they're out to bid right now. I haven't gotten the final numbers yet, and waiting to meet with one other company. So.
Yeah. So we don't think for this budget cycle that we're going to be able to eliminate or reduce the part-time salary. That'll be a few years.
I think that's at least 2 years away.
Okay.
Because I have to send the guys to the Bridge Academy,
Mhm.
which is like a $6,000 expense in and of
Okay.
itself. So.
How long does that take?
So it's spread out. I honestly don't know how long, because there's, all the academics are online. Well,
Okay.
I guess the academic teaching is online. They actually go to a physical location for the test itself. Then there's a week of firearms. There's a week of EVOC, which is the emergency vehicle driving. And then there's a week of defensive tactics. And it's spread out over a number of months.
Sure.
And it really depends on availability. Usually they'll run several EVOC classes in a given month. This particular group that their name falls in that, they'll pick one that works for their schedule. And they'll
Okay.
go to that.
Great.
It's just at the end of, if they don't have everything done by June 30th, they turn into a pumpkin. That's all there is to it.
And
And there's no gray area, no wiggle room. The state's really cracking down on that.
And for the last name issue, is there more folks like at the tail end for us, or is it kind of?
So for
even-
us, yes, we're gonna have 2 that are gonna be in the last group.
Oh, okay.
We've got 1 in right now. This is the next group after this one, which is like I through M or N. We don't have anybody, and then we'll have 2
Okay.
the next year.
Great.
But we're waiting to see whether or not, because I believe that this middle group is like the smallest group.
Mhm.
So I think if they have open slots, they're gonna open it up to members of the next group, so maybe we'll be able to spread it out over 2 years rather than sending 2 people
Yeah.
at once.
Awesome.
That's something we can wait and see. That seems to be the police training committee's motto, wait and see.
What's
Lately anyways.
what's one of your goals with the department as being the new chief?
So one of my goals is, well, I've already, this is a big part of it, is my main goal is never to have an officer working alone, ever again. I want 2 officers on every shift. Outside of that, my goals would be to focus on mental health services for my officers, and also more awareness, having my officers have more awareness of mental health issues. I mean, that's what we deal with a lot.
Oh, yeah.
We have a ton of mental health issues. I mean, it's a huge problem in this country.
Mhm.
So getting them not only mental health training to respond to mental health crises, but also to work on their own mental health. And I've already worked with Inger at Insight Meditation Center. I mean, we have a great resource here in town, and they're great partners to have.
Oh, yeah.
So I've worked with her about incorporating some services on their end that they can help our officers with, and
Great.
everything like that. Also, part of my 5-year plan, I'd like to look at accreditation, possibly getting the police department accredited. There's a lot to that, but I think that it's definitely worthwhile.
What's the difference between an accredited and an unaccredited?
An accredited agency needs to meet, I think there's like 100 and something criteria
Mhm.
that the state puts forth in order to be an accredited police agency. I mean, it may help us out with grants and stuff like that,
Mhm.
but I mean, it labels the department as being very professional, and it's more uniform
Yep.
to state requirements.
Okay.
And I'm not saying that not being accredited
Yeah,
makes it
yeah,
less of
yeah,
a police
yeah,
department,
yeah.
but
Yeah.
you know, it's a high benchmark to meet, and I think that it's a challenge that myself and my leadership team really want to focus on.
Cool, great. Anybody online have any questions for the chief?
I don't have any questions, no.
Yeah,
Everyone here all set? I think we're good.
Alrighty.
All right, thank you. Well, I'll give you, you heard the spiel earlier, we gotta put all the numbers in, see where we end up. Obviously, I feel public safety is very important, to the community. I think we're gonna try to do whatever we can to make everything work.
Very good. And obviously, any questions, any requests or anything, just let me know.
All right, great.
Definitely willing to come in and whatever I have to do.
All right, we appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Guys.
Have a good day.
Have a good night.
Well,
Great night.
All right, and moving right along, we will go to regional dispatch, right?
Yep.
All right.
all right, good evening, everyone.
hello?
Hello?
So can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, all right, perfect. So I'll just go through my budget page by page, which I believe you guys all have that as well. Moving on to page 4, pretty much shows the vacancies that we had during this current fiscal year. We had 3 of our full-time employees resign. One is becoming a full-time police officer in the town of Lunenburg. The other one has resigned to take a position in computer software. And the third employee is starting her own home bakery service. So we have three open vacancies this year. We have those currently filled at this point, and 3 people training right now. We did hire one additional part-timer because we did promote from within on one of those positions. And then just below that shows pretty much just a explanation of what the regional dispatch center is, what we provide, and all that. Page 5 shows the statistics for the 911 and CAD system. We did see an increase of about 2,500 911 calls in fiscal 2021, with a slight decrease of CAD calls entered into the system. Referring to CAD, CAD is the main system that all the police and fire departments utilize to enter reports, accidents, arrests, as well as our calls that we enter in for services as well. Moving forward, page 6 is a summary of the entire budget. And I'll break down each line item as we go forward. Just an overall breakdown, 9% increase and about $111,000 increase to the budget, which will change moving forward once we dive into the revenue side of the budget. Any questions on this page before I move?
No, I think we're good.
Okay, all right, so just moving on to purchase services. And I'll just hit the items that are increased, which the first one, 5200.01 Department Cellular Service, it's increased by $700 to activate a additional line for my department laptop to provide 24/7 services to the communities as well as my dispatchers. Allows me to log into the radio system as well as our network system there whenever an issue arises, and try to assist with any issues that are happening at that point. Second item, is level funded. That's the generator service contract for the, generator that is in Barre on Pleasant Street. 5203, this is one of the ones that increased, quite a bit, by 20,000. So, I think it was last year, or actually in 2020, we applied for a state 901 regional development grant and received money to purchase an AvTech radio system, which replaced our antiquated radio system that we had in dispatch. With that, it was around 250,000 that the state gave us, and it included 2 years of service agreement with the company AvTech. We're at that end point where we now have to pick up that service contract to allow our radio engineers to able to contact that company whenever there is an issue with the radio system. And those AvTech engineers can log into the system. If you do not pay the money, AvTech will not help you whatsoever. So if there is a major issue with the radio system and your radio engineer that you have on staff is not familiar with what the issue is going on or can't fix it, kind of dead in the water at that point. Without that help from AvTech, who is the software engineers for the system. So ultimately, that's why that line item is going up, is to provide the customer service for that system, which already this year we've utilized, I think, 5 times. That's it for that one. 5204, this was reduced due to Crocker Communications applying some discounts to our account for the next 2 fiscal years. The next few line items, 05, 06, 07, 08, and 09 are all level funded. 5200-10 TriTech software systems. This is the CAD system that I was talking about previously. It's just the company's 5% increase on all accounts. So the dispatch center does handle all the accounts for all 5 towns, all 5 police departments as well as fire departments. And there were some additional interfaces that were added during this fiscal year. Which was to connect the CAD system to the 911 system, providing quicker response times for police and fire. 11 was level funded. Actually, I think the rest of the items are actually all level funded. And that completes the purchase services line item. I don't know if you have any questions regarding this section before we move on to the next. Right. Moving on, 299-5100 and 5110, which is their wages accounts for the department. The first one, which is the director's position salary, which was increased by 2%, which is still in negotiations with the town of Rutland and has not been completed yet. The second item is a new position that is going before the Board of Selectmen in Rutland, I believe at the next meeting, to see if they want to approve that position or not. Currently for this current fiscal year, there is grant funding that we received to fund this position, and grant funding has been applied for this next fiscal year that we're going into. This position is highly needed by my department. I do not have an administrative assistant or a secretary to assist me with the administrative duties within the department. The position would be mainly 75% administrative, 25% operational. It would also reduce that person. The person that would be promoted within would reduce their salary by roughly $8,000. And would limit this person from earning any overtime, as it would be a salary position. Let's see. That's it for that one. Do you, any questions on that before I move on that one?
I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this, but, so there's not a committee that oversees, this is all the budget is handled by the town of Rutland only? And
That's correct.
all the other towns are just kind of forced to do whatever they say?
It's like, yeah, like a service, yeah. Ultimately, that's the structure that's in place right now. It was being looked at to possibly move to a district model, which would create a operational board, administrative board, as well as a finance board, which would be comprised of one finance member from each community. So that's still in the works. It was stalled out a little bit due to, I believe our town administrator that did not want to move forward with it. But it's still on my plate to try to move forward. It just works better. A lot more regional centers are moving towards that model currently right now. Gives each community more leverage with how the center runs.
No, I agree. I agree.
Yep.
Just go put that on your list.
Okay, you can move on.
All right. So next line item is the supervisor wages. Obviously, this is going down because the intention is to promote one of the 3 supervisors that currently I have right now to that deputy director's position, and just remove that 3rd supervisor's position from that line item. That's why you see that drastic cut in that line. The next one after that, full-time dispatcher wages. This line has gone up. It's just with all the increases per the union collective bargaining agreement, which this is the last year of the contract, and it ranges from some of them getting 1% to 5%. Everybody varies depending on the step that they're moving. Part-time dispatchers, increasing that just a little bit as we're utilizing more and more of our part-timers to cover holidays and all other types of leave that our full-time employees are taking, which also reduces our overtime at the end of the year. Overtime has gone up as well, as we're averaging more and more overtime due to the, I don't want to say revolving door, but full-time employees resigning. It's the nature of this profession is it's hard to keep employees for a long time. So that's where we're at with that. Overall, a 9% increase from last year. That's it on that section, if anybody has any questions. Next page, which is $299,500, which is our indirect charges. The first 3 are level funded. After that, you have health insurance and dental, which is those are the current figures right now with what we're looking at with a 7.5% increase. Our health insurance advisory committee is still working on reducing that percentage currently right now, and hopefully by the end of next month we'll have final figures for that. And the rest of the increases are just due to the amount of employees that are either losing my train of thought here. that have joined into those certain line items. That's it there. $299,5400 supplies and uniforms. Both line items are level funded, no changes there. And then this is the last page, page 13, which breaks down everything. So as you can see, FY 2022, the overall budget for the Regional Dispatch Center was roughly 1.2 million. And this year, FY 2023, it's moving to 1.3 million. Like I said before, it's a 9% increase and about $111,000 difference. The next little graph below, the State 901 grant revenue. The first two grants that you see there, those are guaranteed each year. We did get awarded an additional $49,201 for this fiscal year, bringing that up to a total of $539,873 in state grant funding to offset our budget. So if you take that total state revenue and minus that from the overall budget up top, you're left with $781,645.07, which is a $62,000 difference from last year. Taking that, that's what needs to be assessed out to the 5 communities, which is assessed out by a population-based formula, which you can see in the community assessments. It's population, and right next to that is the percentage that each community is being assessed off of. So you can see the last 2 years that were there and the current FY 2023 column. That was the original. As you can see, you see an adjusted column. That's there due to the fact that there was a surplus in FY 2021 that's being applied to FY 2023 budget, which there was a surplus of $50,000 that again was broken down by the population-based formula, which you can see right next to that column is the town of Barre's assessment for this year, which is $146,770.07, which is roughly a 3% increase from last year.
So your FY 22 number is off from what I show a little bit for the Barre. You show community assessment of 142,410.97. I show the town budgeted 143,505.74. So you're off about $1,100.
74. I don't remember seeing 143, but I'll double check that. But
That's what's on our.
records of that.
That's a solid number, right, for us. We pay that out.
We pay the whole amount,
Well, we
what's
pay-
expended.
Well, expended is what the carry forward,
Yeah,
because we paid in one lump. So we paid
we haven't gotten a bill from them.
21.
Okay.
So the bill you'll send us for 22,
Yeah, that should be coming out shortly.
and that'll be 142,410. You're saying?
Correct. Yep. And we are projecting a surplus for FY 2024 as well, coming up. Let's see, it's roughly, so we're gonna be looking at possibly roughly 100,000 in surplus for FY 2024. That's due to my salary, as well as that additional funding that I spoke about for the deputy director's position. It equals up to $125,000 in extra revenue from the state 911 department. But currently in this fiscal year, we had a major radio malfunction where all 5 police departments were offline for, I believe, roughly a couple, 3 days. They had to operate on a backup channel that we had, and the cost of fixing the issue was $25,000. That was to pay for the equipment as well as the tower climbers to go up and fix that equipment on the towers. But like I said, we are projecting roughly $100,000 in revenue for FY 2024, which will adjust that budget as well.
Great.
Just after this page, the last 2 pages is just pretty much a breakdown of everything that I went through. The wages, each employee, what their salaries are, holidays, and all that. It's just pretty much all on one sheet kind of breakdown instead of on 4 or 5 different pages. Is that there? I'm moving.
Yep, yep, it certainly is. And the number of calls you typically receive, that kind of mimics the population from each community?
Say that again?
Like the number of calls the dispatch center receives, does that mimic the population in a way?
No. So the amount of calls that we get into the center, it fluctuates on each town from year to year. Where you could have Barre taking a majority of the calls one year and then taking a drastic 50% decrease in calls the next year. We looked at utilizing call volume as part of the formula to assess communities, but it was not a it would be hard to budget for that each year because it's not a stable number that you can go from.
Oh, yeah, no, understood. I was just curious.
Sure.
So overall, Barry's contribution is gonna be about a 3%, probably a little bit less than 3%. Because if you, at least according to our budget numbers, it's about $3,200 more than fiscal 2022. Does anybody else have any questions for the regional dispatch?
I have one question. On your supplies and uniforms, what, out of that $7,000, what is broken down into uniforms? And is that something that's contractual or?
Yeah, so out of that account, uniforms makes up about 3,000 of that 7,000, and like you said, it is contractual through their contract.
I work for a union. I represent. Actually, I have all the state police 911 dispatchers. I have a lot of dispatchers throughout the Commonwealth. I always find it funny with the uniform when usually I see management put that in there, but I just didn't know if that was something that could be cut. I know they like wearing the shirts and you know, they're neat, but I just didn't know if that was something that could be taken out to make room for other portions.
Yeah. Can be looked at coming up. This is their last year, like I said, so they'll be negotiating a new contract coming up, so that can definitely be looked at for the next contract.
Great, well, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Have a good night.
You too.
All right. And we're moving on. Does anybody have any questions or discussion for the budget reports that came out almost 2 weeks ago? I know we talked a little bit about the police department. That's something kind of I saw as being, looks like they'll have budget overruns by the end of the fiscal. If nothing, we'll move on. Okay, capital requests. Was there anything new that came in, Jessica, for capital requests?
No, the only thing that we discussed last night briefly was that the design, for the fire station, the design portion is going to be about $1.4 million, and that's something that we will need to look at funding, you know, potentially at this town meeting, so I will have to dive in and see how we can fund that, but,
Where are we gonna find 1.4 million?
right. That's what I'm gonna have to do.
That would exhaust all of our stabilization, and you don't wanna do that.
No, it would, it's more than what we have in stabilization and free cash combined, so
How close are we getting to a bond rating? Still more than a year, or?
that'll be, so my understanding of it, based off of conversations I've had with our financial advisors, is that the company that gives out the bond rating, they look for 2 to 3 years of clean audits, which we haven't had one. So,
Mhm.
we are a couple of years away from, you know, thinking about applying for a bond rating.
And what's our plan to meet that?
So that's what part of the finance team, what we've been working on. The biggest goal this year was to get everybody on the same software. And so, you know, hopefully going forward that once everybody's on the same software, there will be less of a delay in getting things posted and so, and then we'll work our way down the list. There's some other
You know,
things like
But-
meeting minutes and
Yeah. Departments, yeah. Free cash, where are we at? Getting closer, we have it, or?
We're negative, right?
The
we're
negative.
still.
No, but I mean, getting the new number.
Well, so, right, so the free cash, we got our certification, which was negative,
Okay.
and, but by the time we did receive that, the DPW superintendent had filed the chapter 90 paperwork, and, he needed some paperwork from me, for some, information related to the bidding of the chapter, or basically for our contracts with Palmer Paving and All States Asphalt. And so I've sent that in, and, you know, apparently that is just the last thing that the state is looking for, in order to release those
Okay.
funds, so.
Can you guys send the, because I know last year we got the certification letter. Were we able to get that this year?
Oh, yeah, I
Yeah.
can send it to you.
Yeah, that'd be great. 'Cause I think it's what,
Just
negative,
for you have it.
I was gonna say, I'll send it to you all right now.
It's
I
ne-
thought,
right, as of right now, it's -39. They might have my old email, and that
okay,
could
maybe,
be, I don't even really look at that anymore, because that's what I give to, like, you know, people selling windows.
yeah.
You know, everything goes to that email address.
DOR
Yeah.
probably doesn't have all theirs.
No, you don't think, okay.
I doubt it.
But it was what, -319?
335.
335?
Somewhere around there.
Believe me, I didn't want to memorize the number.
Yeah. Do you think we'll get that straightened out by meeting?
It's gonna depend on the DOT's turnaround.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think,
You're not gonna get that back until after we close this year and we're certified for 22.
okay,
Then it won't hit, because he'll probably have the money in by then.
right.
We'll have the money in, so it won't be a negative number anymore.
So,
And if he does any chapter 90 projects between now and June, he's gotta get them in, or we're gonna have another negative.
what's the, so what's that process? Because I'm still new to that.
Process for what?
If you're negative on free cash, does,
Well, our negative isn't caused by our town finances, it's caused by the chapter 90 money not being put in on time.
okay,
It has to be put in, it should be put in by June 30th. We can borrow the money up to June 30th, but when they're, you know, how do you know?
yep,
Otherwise, they have to have the paperwork in before September 30th, because then I could have sent in the reimbursement signed forms with the balance sheet,
mhm,
and they wouldn't have hit us for it. But whereas he didn't put it in until February, I couldn't argue with anybody, so.
No. Now, is there anything the town is or can do to, like, checks and balances to prevent it from making it all the way to almost April before we know that there's gonna be an issue, or is that, it is what it
I knew
is?
it was gonna be an issue January of 21. He spent that money in December of 2020. and I started after him, $633,000. And I started in January of '21, telling him to get that money in, reimbursed for it. You can do partial reimbursements, you don't have to wait for everything to be finished, but he didn't do it. So,
And I think it's the DPW commission is, you know, they're responsible for that person, for that department.
Yeah, I mean,
It's up to them really to enforce it and make sure that it happens.
yeah, no, I get mistakes can occur. I mean, I don't know the situation. I would just,
Absolutely. But year after year,
you gotta move forward and a policy or procedure or change to
right.
not have it be an issue this deep into the budget season and go rolling up on town meeting with, you know, folks that are gonna be looking for capital
Yeah, right.
purchases
Why would we?
and not have any free cash to pay for the products. So it's putting the town, I believe, at a disadvantage here, with the free cash.
Yep.
So 1.4 million, you have any preliminary thoughts of like, is that's raise and appropriate? You'd have to do like an override type of thing, debt exclusion?
That's something that I'm gonna have to sit down with Jean and I'm gonna have to,
I didn't watch the whole thing, but I did watch
right,
like on 2 times, you know, speed there. Everyone talking real fast.
I love that.
Yeah. Because I knew the feasibility. So with the feasibility study, that's done.
correct.
Now, how does that relate to, is there still funds that need to be expended, or, because in the recent budget, only about half of the expense that was allotted to feasibility was actually spent.
Right, so they bill us in very big chunks of money. I don't know when the last time we got a bill from them was,
Okay.
but they charge us at about like a $10,000 to $12,000 per invoice.
So that money will be fully allocated. That was a
Yes.
solid.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, they will charge us for the services that they've provided, so if they did come under budget, then I don't think that they will be, but, you know, they're not gonna just charge us for whatever we were contracted for and not instead of the services that they provided. But they still, we probably still have some room in there because their services will also help us with presentations to help educate the community as well. So there is some room in that budget for them to come out a couple of times to do maybe some community meetings, presentation at a town meeting potentially. So there's all of those opportunities as well. But the bulk, like the work itself, the feasibility study is complete. The next phase is just to educate the community about it. And then once the community or the building committee and the select board decide on a location, that's when we enter into the design phase, which is the $1.4 million, which that's when they do testing and, you know, they give the more complete models and blueprints of the facility.
So I know when Chief Rogowski was here, there was 4 potential sites, and he said they kind of narrowed it down to at least 3.
Right, 2.
It's down to 2 now?
Yeah, so there was 4 of them. One of them, Chief Rogowski had put on the table just as a, like, if he could get a more budget-friendly facility that at least gives him, like, adequate office space and that kind of stuff. But that wasn't budget-friendly enough to be justified as an option. And then the other option was on South Street next to the police station, but they don't recommend that spot because it is, the topography of the land isn't very friendly to fire trucks or ambulances. So that leaves us with 2 properties, one that the town owns on Mechanic Street and then one that the town does not own. So we're doing some internal work to determine what might be the best option for us, and then move forward from there.
Great. Nothing else. Cory, you watched or a little bit, we talked about that a bit, the school district budget meeting.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about that?
So they're under the impression that we're still waiting to fund the parking lot repairs. There were like 3 other items as well. So I clarified that got approved out of ARPA. But I think they're waiting to update us. But their budget is a work in progress. It sounds like it's gonna change an awful lot in between now and town meeting.
Okay.
There's also money for like a generator. They were waiting on reimbursement for, and a kitchen stove at Ruggles.
Yep, so the kitchen stove, the oven that they had to buy, we are going to reimburse them at our town meeting for that cost. I think it was about an $11,000 oven. And then that oven, it broke because originally we were supposed to fund a different kind of oven at the last town meeting, but they got a grant for it, so we were good. And then right after the fiscal new year started, they had another oven break, so the agreement that we had with them was that if they purchased it right now when they needed it, we would reimburse them at a later town meeting. And then the generator has not been purchased or has not gone out to bid. I'm still working with their facilities manager to determine the specs that are needed for the generator. So he's working with an engineer right now to help get those specs. And then, once I have that information, I can go out to bid, and then we can go forward with the process of getting that account spent.
So will they be doing the parking lot over April vacation? Because that was the big rush to get the funding.
Right, that's,
Is that still the plan? Because I mean, we kind of forced that through.
right. That's my understanding that is the plan.
Because they've been sitting on that 50,000 since June of 20. Approaching 2 years now.
Right, and so part of the issue was that not enough money was allocated in the first place, and they didn't want to do a partial job on the parking lot, so they just were going to wait until all of the money was allocated and then do the project all at once.
Well, hopefully they do it soon because prices are going up. And
Well, we're contracted still.
still in
So
contract.
we still have a contract with our asphalt people and all of the materials that are involved with
Like
this.
all the drainage and stuff, that's all a set price.
Locked in till June 30th?
Well, the drainage materials, I don't know their
Yeah.
process on that, but as far as the materials of paving,
Paving.
reclaiming, and that kind of work, that's all in the contract.
Okay.
So can I ask hypothetically what would happen? I don't know the contractor that put the bid in, but let's say the asphalt plant doubles their rate because of the price of oil. Like, where would that leave us
That
if
would,
they backed out of the bid?
Oh, Ruggles would have a dirt parking lot.
yeah, I mean, it would be another price increase and another,
That-
back to the
Yeah, go back to
finance
town, yeah,
committee and back to the
town meeting, and the town would have to vote on it to see if they want to appropriate the money.
If in the generator, when you say that's going out to bid, would it go out like locally, or is there an approved list?
So it goes out based off of the procurement requirements, so I will post it to the state. The state has a couple of different advertising requirements that I will post to, and that gets a wide range of eyes. I don't know who specifically looks at it. I don't send it to like, local companies per se, but
Okay.
I just will post it per the state requirement.
Why such a delay on the generator?
It's just been a lot of back and forth between the building inspector, myself, the facilities manager. I mean, he's new. I think this year is his first year, so he's getting the lay of the land at the school district because the last employee retired. So he was getting his lay of the land, and then there's been a lot of discussion between him, myself, and the building inspector on how big the generator needs to be. Is that site an emergency site? Like, there's just been a lot of questions, because all of those things will determine like how big of a generator is gonna be required to be up there. And so now there's like the engineers involved to determine, how big of a generator we will need in order to run, you know, the whole building, part of the building, so there's just been a lot of,
And this is rooftop, right?
I actually don't know if it's rooftop.
No, it's
or-
probably gonna be on the ground. Those are pretty heavy, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, so, I mean, that's what I do, so.
yeah,
I've seen that, and then they have to restructure the entire roof, so,
oh,
hopefully not.
And if the generator doesn't power the whole building up, there's a lot of electrical work, sub panels to figure out what actually fires on and doesn't.
Yeah.
So,
right,
Well, hopefully it doesn't become another parking lot issue where by the time it's decided, it's a $100,000 job.
Yeah,
Right,
and I will
right.
say generators
Yeah.
are taking a real long time to come in right now.
Oh, yeah. If it's not in the States, a lot of it's imported,
Yeah.
or components are imported. Great. All right, well, thank you, Cory. On to minutes. So I don't think we have the 15th, right, but we have the 8th.
yeah, so,
Did we have
Sandy did the minutes for the 8th, and the 15th was, since it was a special town meeting, and we were with our select board people, I think Harry took care of the minutes for
Okay.
that.
So we can-
have a Dropbox.
Oh, okay.
We can,
Outside?
No, like, she sent me a Dropbox to put them in.
Oh,
So I don't
okay.
know if she like typed them up or like what she did. I just took notes. So she gave me a template. I marked up her template.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then put it into the Dropbox.
Okay,
no worries.
I'll make sure we revisit
We'll
that.
cover the 15th next meeting. The 8th, any questions, comments, concerns on meeting minutes?
No.
Pretty straightforward.
Yep.
It'd be nice if every committee had minutes, like the finance
Yes,
committee,
it would.
you know?
Such big.
Do we have a motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve the finance committee meeting minutes from Tuesday, March 8th.
And I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Great. Reserve fund, you guys haven't had a chance to meet yet, have you?
Mm-mm.
One of these days, maybe?
One of these days.
Yeah. All right.
We're busy with the, generator plan.
We're gonna do it one of these days, I promise.
One of these days, I'm sure. ARPA, anything new on ARPA?
Not at this point. We are still planning. I had a discussion last week with the people who are gonna be managing our grant, and, they're gonna help us facilitate like a public, forum discussion. So hopefully, I'm thinking mid-April, mid to late April, hopefully we can get that on the books. Today I finalized, a form that all of the departments will be able to use to kind of say what their needs are through ARPA, or their ideas are gonna be through ARPA. So I'll be sending that out this week and just start compiling their data.
Great. No new expenses, though, since,
No,
and did the town get the 10-wheel dump truck?
I haven't seen a title yet, but I know that the check was cut, so.
It's somewhere.
General discussion, questions?
Jessica, that, I mentioned before, the summary draft of the budget,
Yeah,
do we have that, do you have that on the computer somewhere?
yeah, I
Give
can
us a
send
copy.
you, right, so I've been sending, as I've gotten updates, I've sent you guys a revised version of that, but I can definitely send you the most
Don't remember seeing one.
current.
If you
Yeah.
can send the latest one, that'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think at this point, were we waiting on the clerk and the DPW?
Well, yeah, but we
Yeah.
still can have a general idea.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, I think the last one has the school budget in it, so you don't wanna.
Right.
You don't,
Right.
you don't wanna, it's gonna throw you back in your chair. You might wanna just.
Take that out of there for now. See how the rest of it's going.
I did have a couple questions just on some older business. Did you have anything on Felon Field? They had the vandalism.
I've asked them for because basically the deductible for that property is $2,500.
Mhm.
So I asked them to get me a list of expenses, to see if it's gonna be worth going through our insurance, which I don't suspect it will be. And, I'm just waiting on them to get me that list.
Oh, okay. The Council on Aging, we asked her to get us some updated info as well, like money coming in for the grant. Did she ever get that over to you?
No.
Are we able to follow up with her?
Yep.
So we get that, because we really only have 2 meetings with departments coming up, where we're getting down to the final. So I'd like to have all these smaller things buttoned up as we put the budget together. I think we're waiting on the DPW, supposed to be next week,
Mm-hmm.
and we're finally back onto every other week. Let's try to keep it that way.
Yeah.
And then the schools after. What about the 250th? Are they gonna wanna come in and present?
Yes, yeah, we should definitely have them in,
I mean, if they can come in next week, next meeting,
next meeting? Okay, I can reach out to them and see
how are you?
if they are available.
Having a good day?
Not really. I'm having not a very happy day, but I'm doing my best.
All right, well, have a good night.
Yeah, by the way, I was disappointed at that meeting when we gave away $6.5 million, that someone in your department didn't say, this is the reason we are not voting for it.
Yeah, it's true.
But
We should've-
everybody was just, everybody had sat on their hands, and nobody said anything other than me, that I wanted the town to be fiscally responsible, and people are looking up at the sky and saying, what does that mean? I'm disappointed.
I understand. Hey, you know, with that being said, you know,
By the way,
you
anybody
don't wanna
can
beat a
get in
dead
touch
horse.
with me, you know, I'm in the book.
I mean, I don't wanna beat a dead horse here, but I feel like, you know, for the finance committee, at least for me on the finance committee, it was hard to say favorable, unfavorable. We didn't have the information to fully digest and understand.
You're right.
I do feel that the project is a feasible project. I think the project needed to go forth. But you know, here we gotta have an objective opinion. And, you know, personally, I didn't vote for it. And that was the main reason is because I don't understand the funding. You know, there are still unanswered questions. However, the town overwhelmingly passed it, so.
Yeah, all you had to do was stand up and say, hey, I'm not gonna approve this because I don't understand this and that, then you would have.
Well, I asked quite a few questions.
Then you would have generated some communication with other people, and then they would have, and then this person and that person would say, yeah, I don't understand it either, maybe you can explain it, and then we start generating communication, and that's what's good. But
Yeah.
if everybody sits there like this,
We'll remember that for the next meeting.
Well, not everyone's as good of a communicator as you are,
That's
you
right.
know?
yeah, but I want you to know, I did a poor job. If I did a better job, then people would have, you know, one of the first things in public speaking is you have to understand your audience. And I didn't bond with the audience as well as I should have. And I should have said, no bond rating means a 500 credit score. And there was oh, that's what that means. We don't have a bond rating. And every time we borrow money, it's gonna cost us a premium. And if we go to build this fire station with a fire station that doesn't have net zero in its energy issues, we're gonna be in bad shape. Anyway, I don't wanna keep on going. Anybody who wants to get in touch with me, they know how.
Have a good night, sir.
Nice.
I'm in the book, box 10, well, you can choose my name to the post office and I'll get it. See you later, guys.
Take care. All right, so then, so there was a council on aging, there was, the other thing is I feel like, you know, we talked about it last year. We should definitely have a article cleanup
Yeah.
at this town meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh.
Between,
Hello.
you know, between the articles that are out there that are, you know, over 6, 7 years old, and even to clean up the ones like, from the town hall. You know,
Yes.
because we're gonna have to clean that up as well, rather than just
Right.
let it sit out there for a while.
Yeah.
I think we could just, if we bundle it all in, that was a thought I had. Gene, since you're here, on the police department, I noticed that their cruisers are almost offset, but they're both articles, like they went negative on one article, and they're positive on another article.
Yeah, they probably just used the wrong article when they put the bill through.
Yes,
I'll go in and just
okay,
move it back.
just switch it around and, yeah, okay,
Yeah, I'll go through that, clean that up.
cool. And that was all I had. Did anybody else, Cory, Claire, Lee? Anything on your side, questions, comments, concerns?
No, I'm good. Yeah.
I'm good as well.
Good. Good.
Think we're good.
What does that mean?
It means we need a motion, my friends.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
All in favor?
I-
Aye.
Aye.